Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Alec.
And I'm Hannah, and we have a new little series for you here today. It is called Newly Wed Talks. Now, don't click out of the video yet. It's not what you think it is. We just thought that a series about marriage and relationships and kind of what we go through and what we have been through and what others' experiences are would be really helpful for people out there. And it would be a fun thing to talk about and learn more about. So we are really excited to start this with you. This series is just going to be, like I said, all about marriage and relationships and about like good things that we can do in them and then how to work through certain problems or any kind of stuff like that. So here we are.
Yeah, and on top of that, it might also just be on stuff that can affect people like us, like married couples or families in general. So we might be dabbling a little bit more into like not just the relationship side, but into kind of everything altogether. But only if it actually affects people like us, right? Anyways, today's first episode is actually going to be about us. It's just how we got together, why we're together, and kind of just our story as to what brought us to this point. Mm-hmm. So let's just have a little bit of a preface first. We actually met while doing a feature film. Mm-hmm. So a feature film that was by her grandma, actually. Her name is Pam, and she's been a director for a long time, she's pretty fantastic. But with that, just as a little bit of a preface, now we're going to wind it back a little bit and just start with my side of the story because I think I'm the first one to really get this thing running off into a start. But I actually met her grandma about, 7-8 years ago now? Mm-hmm. It was quite a long time ago. And she was actually in my ward, which was pretty cool. And I was one of those people that was really, really friendly. So I'd go up and I'd talk to pretty much everyone and anyone and just try and make them feel like welcome kind of in that ward. And she was one of these people. So I went up to her and I said, hey, how's it going? Like such and such. And I was just kind of introducing myself. I'm Alec. And then she's like, hey, you have a good face. You want to come audition for a show? And I'm like, a show? What do you mean a show? And she's like, yeah, like we do theater kind of stuff and such and other. She explained a little bit, and then in my brain, I'm just kind of going, no, I am very much a sports kid. There is no way I'm ever going to do that, but thank you for the offer anyways. So, but instead of doing that, I was like, you know what, I think I'm okay for now, thanks. And it just kind of kept persisting for a little while until it got to that point where I did say yes and I gave in. Then I realized that I actually really liked acting because I actually got one of the top 3 spots. Or like the major roles, whatever they're called, the leads. And I found out that I liked it. And eventually, this grandma of hers moved away from this place, and I didn't really know where she went for a while, and she was just kind of gone. For a little while, I honestly thought she was dead. But, you know, out of the blue, though, she finally, messages me, and she's like, hey, I'm actually directing a movie and we're doing a movie. Would you be interested? This is through an email. And I'm like, yeah, I would be interested in doing that. I could be part of a movie, which would be fantastic. So I went and I talked to my parents, which they are actually extremely, extremely strict. So I was like, could I do this? And their first thing was no. Like instant no. Because that's how my parents are. But then I was like, okay, well, what if I did this, 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 and this? Can I do it? And they're like, we'll see. So I went through and I did this, 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 and this, you know? And I came back and I'm like, hey, I did this all. Here's my papers I got signed and here's all the homework I was caught up on and etc. And they're just like, yeah, no. And I'm like, crap. Okay, I'm a little lost. What's happening? Eventually, it was a lot of back and forth for like a month because I had a little bit of it in. I knew about this in preparation, obviously. But it went back and forth for about a month, and officially they did say yes. So it was great, and I finally got to that point. But then it was over to her side. So
we were really young. So on my side of the story, my grandma, the director, comes out and says, I'm putting together this feature film. We're going to make this musical I wrote into a movie. And I wanted to be in it so badly. I wanted to be in it so badly. But keep in mind, at the time, I was 13 years old. So we were both in school. You're like 2 years older than me? So he was a little older than me, but so there's this part of me that's like, I'm really young, maybe she won't want me in it, but the other part of me didn't even care and was like, I am going to be in this movie. And I grew up all in the theater world. So all of my family had acted before and things like that. This wasn't new. So
the friends too.
Oh yeah.
The family mainly.
A lot of friends, a lot of family. We were all into the acting scheme. So it wasn't as hard to get my parents to say yes. But also, I was not a first pick for one of the parts in this movie. Actually, my grandma, the director, had asked someone else to play a certain part. And we did a read-through at my house, and she wasn't able to make it, so I read her part. And then she dropped out. She couldn't do the show anymore. She couldn't do the movie. And so my grandma came up to me and was like, hey, do you want to be in the film? And it was an instant yes. It was like, yes, absolutely yes. And I was so excited. And then she tells me that my counterpart, my opposite, the guy who my character gets married to in the movie, his name is Alec. And I just remember being so curious from that point on. And I was so restless. I wanted to know who this Alec kid was. And I couldn't get over it. And I'd ask the director over and over and over again, be like, do you have pictures? Do you know anything else about him? And she told me a little bit about the shows that he was in with her and things like that. But she couldn't ever find me pictures, and he was always so vague, all of the details she told me. And so I was so restless. I was like, who is this Alec guy? I want to meet him so badly.
I'll have you know this was on both sides. No one really told us about the other person like at all. And at first I thought her last name was Faye because she was wrote down in the cast as Hannah Faye. So I'm like, okay, well she's got to be someone different than the Cobb family and all this stuff. And I was very curious on who she was, and I tried looking her up on Facebook because I was trying to Facebook stalk a little bit. Didn't work out because she didn't have one. And even then, I wouldn't have been able to figure it out because her last name wasn't Faye, so I was very confused.
Mm-hmm. So we're both over here, totally blind, trying to run through the dark and find each other, figure things out, right? Then comes the day where everybody arrives, but do you want to talk about travel a little bit first, how that was for you?
Well, let's just say I get super car sick. So this was a 4-hour drive, and I was in the back of this little crammed spot in the back of this truck that didn't really have back seating. I don't know if people remember those kind of trucks because they're super big now, but before you had you were basically just sitting on the floor that had a step in it or something like that, and the things were so pushed up against you that you could practically just lean forward slightly and lick them. But because of that, I was extremely car sick on the way up, but I did come up with a couple of the actors that were also from the southern Utah that we were at, and it was just a long car ride. It was a really, really long car ride, and when we finally got there, it was snowing, it was cold, and I was beyond sick, right? So we finally get to this little rinky-dink little shack, little house, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess we're all meeting here. This is cool. So we finally get out, and I go and I walk inside, and I go and I sit down, and then here comes this cute little blonde that just barely came out of the shower, all in her PJs and everything, and she comes around this big red chair, and she flops on the armrest. And I just thought she was the cutest thing ever, and I was so dumbstruck. I was beyond dumbstruck. I was when people in movies get that where they immediately just do not know what to say, how to say anything, their mind goes blank. Yeah, I witnessed that right there and then, and it was one of the most scariest things of my life. So
on my end, I just get out of the shower, dry my hair up just a little bit. It was kind of long, so it's harder to dry. And then I hear everybody coming through the door, and I'm like, okay, they're here. You're cool, Hannah. Yeah, you're super cool. And then I walk out around the corner, around the chair in my neon purple pajama pants and my wet, crazy hair. And I sit down on the armrest, and we look right at each other. And immediately I'm like, is that him? I'm pretty sure that's him. Oh my gosh, it's him. That has to be. That's Alec. And everybody comes inside and we all engage in conversation. So the director, since she knows everybody who's been cast, she's introducing everyone, and the entire time everyone's talking, me and Alec are just sneaking glances at each other every once in a while and make eye contact and be like, oh, we're looking at each other. But I remember the first thought that I had. Well, besides that's Alec, that's gotta be Alec. About Alec, the first thought that I had after that was, this boy's gonna be a big part of my life. Seriously, that was one of the first thoughts I ever had about him. And
my first thought was, I'm going to puke, and now there's a cute girl here. I'm going to go back outside and pretend to go get luggage. That was my first thought. So
and that's what he did.
That's what I did. I went out, and it was snowing. It was cold. And I went out with one of the actors, and we actually just ended up throwing snow at each other for a little while because I just could not get myself to go back in for a little while because I was just so all over the place. But eventually we went back in, and we started the journey. We started the official journey. And throughout that week that we were up there, we were doing the movie. It is a movie. We were doing the movie, which, by the way, isn't actually out yet. It's still being on the works, and it's been a little while. Mm-hmm. But we finally started doing that, and it was a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of just go for it because we were getting it all done in a week, just one flat week.
Times where we were falling asleep on set while acting.
Pretty much. If you look at it, you can see that we all have rings under our eyes with how tired we were. But there was one place in the back that we went to all the time, and it was just this one chair that was barely big enough for both me and Hannah to sit like next to each other. And it was always my first go-to is whenever I get off set, I'd go and I'd sit in that chair because I'd expect her to like come over and like sit next to me, and I'm like, yeah, I could cuddle with this cute girl.
And I would try and take every opportunity to do that. But I remember being nervous sometimes too and being like, people gonna notice. But then I'd want to sit in that chair. And then whenever a different cast member would sit with you, I'd be like, dang it.
Because there was actually another chick that was like barely older than me by like maybe 6-7 months. But
the 2-year younger girl won his heart. Just kidding.
Yes. Yeah. She did. The other girl was cute. Like, she was really cute, but she just was not my style. This little chick was, though. But yeah, so it was pretty much that for the entire run through right there. But
around.
The nice thing was we actually had to come back up, the group that I was in. We had to come back up because we didn't finish recording everything, which we had to do like sound recording in a different studio. Mm-hmm. And it was actually during Valentine's Day. It was smack dab on Valentine's Day when we were there. So I actually asked Hannah through like a little cute poem if she would like to be my Valentine for that year. And she accepted, which was fantastic. And I figured, yeah, I'm going to go all out for this. So I brought her up some stuff.
He went all out, guys. So he texts me this cute little riddle poem message that I have to figure out. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, Alec asked me to be his Valentine. And my whole family's like, don't get ahead of yourself. And I ignore them. But I think actually that whole week, it was like a week after we had filmed everything, you came up and recorded. I got super sick that week. So I was laying in bed all day, all night, coughing and texting Alec. And it was this whole other week of falling in love with him. And so Valentine's Day comes up, and I have this rinky-dink little present for him, but I kept it at my house and didn't bring it to the studio. But we go to the studio, and he's like, hey, do you want to go outside? And I was like, yeah, sure. So we go outside, and then he pulls out a big bag of Reese's Pieces peanut butter cups.
Because I knew that was like her favorite candy. That's literally all she gave me. So.
Oh man, I was so big. And then he pulls out a pocket knife, this really beautiful, nice pocket knife, and then
I have a thing for giving people that I like weapons or protection in some way. So.
And I think it was one of your grandpas, actually.
I think so.
Yeah, and it's such a nice night. And I still have it, actually. I still have it.
One of the few things she still has that I've given her.
And I still have this one, a beautifully welded rose. A metal rose that he made all himself. It was the very first thing he's ever welded in his life, and you wouldn't have guessed it. It was beautiful. He welded it, he painted it, and that, if nothing else had won me over, that definitely did. But
it was quite the project
beautiful.
that I worked on for practically an entire week, so it was fun.
And wait, you got that done in a week?
Well, yeah, I didn't start it until
I
after
guess that
knew
makes
you.
sense. I never thought about that. Dang!
Yeah, so it was
This
interesting.
kid is talented.
It was interesting, but I do got to say that it was probably one of the better Valentines that I've ever had,
It was
even
the
if it was
best
just something
Valentine's Day.
super simple and kind of stupid. But it was very nice and very like.
It was really nice, really comfortable, and really laid back. We ended up just talking with each other.
Pretty much
Like on the
for
back
quite a
porch
few
or
hours.
whatever.
Quite a few
Yeah.
hours. But that pretty much led on to a lot of different things. From there, just to cut it a little shorter, is we ended up texting each other for a long time. She ended up having a friend that tried to break us up because this friend was very much a parasitic friend that was just a jerk. And did end up splitting us up. And then I ended up getting quite a few different girlfriends. She ended up getting a different boyfriend and all that stuff for quite a while. But it was on and off of us talking all the time and on and off of us being like within really good standing and not good standing between another because it was just obviously a long distance style thing didn't really work too well for either of us in that sense.
And there was so much miscommunication and so many hurt feelings that I don't think were ever really truly resolved whenever we talked. Until, I think, just a year or two down the road.
Pretty much, which was quite a while, but we ended up figuring it out.
Yeah.
But then all of that kind of went through and it got to that point where, so I actually moved out of my house when I was 17 because I really couldn't stand my parents a whole lot. And my sister offered me a place and I thought it was fantastic. So I went and lived with her for a little while. And I was actually planning on enlisting into the Army at the time. But I left my social security number and birth certificate and all that stuff back at home, which means I had to head back there at some point. So just out of the blue, out of my mind, I was like, hey, is there much of a difference from going from New Mexico to southern Utah or New Mexico to northern Utah? And I looked it up on Google Maps, and it was maybe like a 15-minute difference between each side. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go see if I can spend some time up there and see if I can just get a friendship going again or something of that sort. So I texted her out of the blue, and I'm like, hey, what are you doing this weekend, this specific weekend? And, well...
And he texts me, and my immediate reaction was excitement. I was so excited. No matter whatever we went through, whenever me and Alec talked again, I was always excited and like, oh my gosh. But obviously there were different relationships and things like that I was like, no, I'm in a relationship. I gotta stay loyal, which is good. But at this point, I was actually about to break up with the current boyfriend that I had. And so I was like, well, I kind of knew that I was going to break up and I kind of didn't know. But even so, I was like, yes, I want to see you. And yes, you can come up that weekend. Absolutely, yes. And so we got that organized. And we had him a place to stay for that weekend. And it was great. But between the time he texted me and that weekend was like a month in advance. And that entire month, I went through an awful breakup. Maybe 2 weeks, I went through a really awful breakup. And then started to heal with some of my friends. And then, lo and behold, he comes up that weekend, and it was like the best thing ever. All of the healing I needed, so much fun, and we really reconnected over that weekend, I think.
Yeah. She did have a lot of pain in her eyes, though, so I tried to hopefully make it a little bit better, which was my biggest plan, but...
Which he succeeded on,
hopefully.
by the way.
Hopefully.
Just so you know.
But while we were up there, she actually was going to an audition that her grandma was doing at the time, actually.
The previous director of the
previous
film.
director. She Well, she actually came up to me before I knew this and was like, hey, I'm auditioning for stuff. You should come and audition for it. And I'm like, not going to be around. Like, there's no point. And then Hannah's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to that. And I'm like, yeah, I think I can make it. I think I can go. I think it'd be cool. It'd be fun.
Totally.
So, so I went and just read around, had a little bit of fun because it brought back old memories of acting and stuff that I didn't do for like 3 years at that point. And this director comes up to me later and is like, hey, so I'm going to cast you. And I'm like, yeah, good luck with that. I'm not even going to probably be near this place. I'm probably going to be on the East Coast compared to here when you guys are putting this up. And she's like, you know, what can I do to get you to come up here and be part of this play? And I'm like, you know, if you find me a place to stay for free for a little while until I can get myself a job and like get myself pretty much comfortable in my situation before I can start paying rent and everything, then yeah, sure, I'll come up. I'm a really flexible dude. I just barely graduated. I can go around, do whatever, you know. And lo and behold, within 2 weeks, she did. So then I'm like, you know what? I did say I promised it, so I might as well keep my promise. So that's what I did. So I shipped myself up to Orem, Utah, and I ended up staying there for quite a few years.
And I mean, you guys kind of know the rest. We started filming. Well, he started filming during COVID when we were all locked up together. And we got
together.
We actually got
We
together.
got together
That's right.
first
That's
before
right.
we got engaged.
That's right. We did start dating before we got engaged.
Yes.
we kissed for the first time.
She kissed me, specifically.
Cause you want to tell him why I kissed you?
Okay. Here's the thing. Me and one of my best friends, we always have some kind of bet going on, right? And this bet was the fact that I would not kiss her until one, we got engaged and we kissed when we were getting married, or two, she kissed me. So it was literally just me trying over and over and over to convince her to kiss me in some which way or form. Because I'm like, hey, you know, if she does it, then I'm not breaking it, so I will win. I will win this.
But yeah, he got me to kiss him. I was weak. He was irresistible, and I kissed him.
Funny thing was, she kissed me for maybe 1.5 seconds.
It was
and then
a
she
really
pulled
short
back,
kiss.
and then she turned around and ran. And I'm like, excuse me? So I went after her, but then she went into the girls' bathroom and just stayed in there for a while. And I'm like, crap. Well, I have a play I have to go be part of right now, so guess I'll see you later. So I went and performed in this. And afterwards, we ended up, it was another, month or two after that before we officially got together.
Yeah, it was. So we kissed January 27th, which was
I love
a
how
Friday
she knows
night.
dates.
Oh yeah,
I don't.
I know. And it was the best kiss of my life, even though my first reaction was like, oh my gosh, we kissed. my little fangirl brain was like, oh my gosh. But that's not important. And then we did a trial run, actually, of dating each other, of being each other's girlfriend and boyfriend, because we weren't sure if I was too young or whatever. I mean, I was 16 at the time, not that young. Well, I mean, young, but not that bad for dating.
I mean, I was 18, she was 16, so.
We did a trial run, and we really liked just being boyfriend and girlfriend. And then we're driving one time, we got ice cream, we're driving, and he says, hey, say yes to the next question. And he asked me to be his girlfriend. And I said, yes.
Oh, yay, look at that, wow,
then,
she did.
Of course, that led to, we dated for almost 2 years before we got married.
Almost 2 years, barely before 2 years is when we were married, actually.
Yeah.
So that was fun, and that's pretty much where we're at right now.
And
we'll kind of fill you in with the rest of the details after that later, but hopefully we're going to get a marriage video up and running so you guys can see what that is posted and see how it was. It was actually a lot of fun. It was really cool. We had a really little budget, and I think we pulled it out pretty nicely. And thanks to all the people that helped with that. So, but yeah, so that's pretty much our story, and that's how we got together and where we're at right now. So I think the next episode, we're actually going to be talking about our like travel arrangements and what ended up happening there, and why we're in North Dakota for 6 months, and all this fun stuff. If you've been keeping a track, like keeping attention, paying attention, paying some money to us. No. If you've been paying attention to our vlogs, you've probably noticed that we are where we're at and kind of just what's going on at the moment. But we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Yeah. And thank you guys so much for watching. This is a pretty good start, I think, to how this is gonna go, and it's probably gonna be a lot like this in the future. So there's that, and just so you guys are aware, we do finally have merch up for sale on a platform called
Redbubble.
Redbubble.
Yes, the store is called Tantastics. I only have one design out right now, but I'm working on a few more that I'm going to be posting again on there as well soon. So it's really exciting. But yeah, stay updated.
So if you guys are interested, at least check it out. If you could at least take a look at it, that'd be great.
And we'll put a link in the description to it.
So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and you guys have a fantastic day.